Hello and welcome back to Art Tarpic. Now, I'm a huge fan of Sonic, and so I wanted to talk about how Sonic games have affected my life, how it got me into video games, and so on and so forth. So, if you want to, while I'm talking about Sonic, I'm also going to be drawing Sonic. So, if you want to follow along with me, today's topic is going to be to draw Sonic doing something cool. I'm going to leave that up to your imagination. So I'm going to start off with a brief history of Sonic. It's going to be some history of Sega in here because the history of Sega at this point basically becomes the history of Sonic. And I would like to talk about Sega at some point, like its own separate video, but for now it's just basically going to be Sonic, and I'm going to bring in some Sega stuff as needed. But Sega is a super interesting company, so I really would like to do a video on it at some point, but it's just going to be around Sonic. So, and then I'm going to go into my personal history with Sonic at some point later. So, but the history of Sonic in the late 80s, in late 1980s, it was after the video game crash. Nintendo ended up becoming on top for its use of the Rob robot in order to kind of keep itself from going under. So, it's the late 1980s. Nintendo's on top of the video game market, and they're making a lot of money. However, you know who is not on top of the video game market? Sega. And Sega didn't like not being on top of the video game market, so Sega wanted to dethrone Nintendo, and they had to think of some way to do it. So they got everybody together, and basically what the consensus was that they needed some kind of mascot, like how Nintendo has Mario. So a few people got together, and they came up with a few different ideas. Some of them you might have heard of. I know they came up with like an armadillo. One of them came up with like this Teddy Roosevelt looking guy. The armadillo eventually became Mighty the Armadillo in Sonic, and the Teddy Roosevelt guy became Dr. Eggman, the villain of Sonic. However, one of them came up with the design for Sonic. It was designed by a guy named Naoto Oshima. He was the character designer for Sonic. And then he didn't have the name Sonic at that point. He had the name Mr. Needlemouse. However, Yuji Naka was a programmer, and he had like this tech demo for a game he was working on that was kind of physics based. And so they basically stuck and in that physics demo, like it was basically kind of like a ball. So they wanted a character that can roll into a ball. So they ended up picking Sonic for it, or the Sonic design, and eventually, that's how it came to be, and that's how we got Sonic. So this was like I said, this was in the late 1980s. However, Sonic didn't actually make his first debut game until 1991. That's when Sonic 1 came out. Okay, so after this point, I'm gonna start talking about a bunch of different Sonic games. I'm gonna talk about 25 of them. I might talk about like one or two more, but this thing with this, I have played most of these games. There's a few of these I haven't played, and so I'm still want to talk about them in a bit because they are important, but I don't know them. There's I would say about 4 of these I haven't played. So, but we're gonna start off with Sonic 1. So this is when Sonic actually debuted. It was in it was in 1991. It was for the Sega Genesis. The Sega Genesis came out in 1988 in Japan, 1989 in the U.S. And so it predates the Super Nintendo by a couple years, which you're gonna notice in here, especially when it comes to the game consoles. Sega's mentality was a good fit for Sonic because Sonic's mentality was gotta go fast, which is also going to be Sega's mentality for a lot of stuff they do. In this video, I want to focus mostly on the console games, not so much the handheld games, because while I have played quite a few of them, I don't think there's anything really note about them. I will mention some of them when I talk about other games, but I'm gonna leave out any kind of spin-off games or any handheld games for the most part. In 1991, Sega released Sonic 1. Now, Sonic 1 is a little weird. Sonic can't spin dash. He goes a lot slower because they gave him a speed cap, and like every other level just doesn't really fit well. Like you got Green Hill Zone, which is kind of like this open, fast-paced level, which is what Sonic's known for. Then you immediately follow up with Marble Zone, which is a lot slower, more traditional platforming level. And then you go to, and they basically kind of alternate between like it's kind of fast-paced and then like slow-paced levels. So it plays a little weird. The reason why they were doing this is because they didn't know how Sonic was going to play as, so they're kind of doing both to see which one worked. And you can tell right after that they kind of realized which one worked because going into Sonic 2 here, Sonic 2 only used like the kind of like open, like sweeping, looping levels design. Sonic 2 does really where the game kind of, like where the series kind of found its footing. Gave him the spin dash, made him a lot faster. The levels played better. It's also the introduction of Tails, even though he really didn't do much different than Sonic at that point. Because even though he could fly in, you couldn't actually use him to fly. So this was released in 1992, so only a year after Sonic. A year after that, they released Sonic CD. Now, Sonic CD was a little different. It was actually developed around the same time as Sonic 2, and if you can tell by the name Sonic CD, it was used the add-on, the Sega CD, and so this was developed by Sega Japan, where Sonic 2 was actually developed by Sega of America, and so Sonic CD takes a different direction than Sonic 2. It also introduced a spin dash, but like a different one. It wasn't as good. The level design was also kind of weird. It's a lot more vertical. It had more emphasis on exploration than Sonic 1 or Sonic 2, which I don't mind. However, I don't think it works too well for the character of Sonic. In later games, they have explorations, and I think it works well there. Mostly because you can play as somebody else other than Sonic, like Tails and Knuckles, which you can do better with. But Sonic CD is a lot more vertical. It makes it kind of hard to. It makes it kind of weird to navigate. Also, I find the time travel mechanic kind of awkward to use. You need a lot of space for it. If you can't have enough space for it, then you probably won't be able to do it unless you really know the level. There's no reason to ever go to the future, in my opinion, because you should only go to the past. It might be some kind of weird thing we gotta go to the future and then go to the present and to the past, but it's like there doesn't really seem any reason for me to go to the future without getting the robot generator or all the time stones. So I like the concept. I don't think the execution of it wasn't all that good. And then after that, in 1994, we have Sonic 3. Sonic 3 is interesting in the fact that they darkened Sonic. Before this, Sonic was kind of like a light blue. At this point, Sonic was like a much darker blue. The art style also kind of changed to be a little bit more detailed but less vibrant. And Sonic 3 was supposed to be this big long game, but they had to cut it about halfway through because it wouldn't fit all in one cartridge, and they couldn't justify the cost of making a special cartridge to hold all of it. So they ended up splitting into two games. The first game being Sonic 3, like I said. Later that year, they released Sonic and Knuckles. What I really like about this way they did it is that they were able to make Sonic and Knuckles kind of like an add-on. Like you can open up the top and put whatever Sega Genesis game you want in there. And almost all of them did something. Sonic 3, you put it in there, and you can play Sonic 3 and Knuckles. So you kind of get the full Sonic and Knuckles experience. If you put Sonic 2 in there, you can actually play as Knuckles in Sonic 2. If you put Sonic 1 in there, you play this game called Blue Sphere where you can play all of the levels in Blue Sphere. And if you put any other game in there, it would just play one level of Blue Sphere. I actually heard the reason why they didn't put Knuckles in Sonic 1 and instead just made all Blue Sphere was the fact that Knuckles had a certain shade of green that wasn't in Sonic 1, and they didn't want to change the color of it, so they decided not to do it. But Sonic 3, though, there was this rumor going around. I think it eventually became confirmed. I don't know, I kept hearing various things about it. But Michael Jackson, I heard, worked on the game. You can tell by some of the music there, and and if it hasn't been confirmed, there are definitely a lot of empirical evidence that he did work on it. For instance, when they released Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles on the PC later, they changed some of the background music in Sonic 3. So, like Carnival Night Zone, Ice Cap Zone, and Launch Base Zone. And those were like the 3 levels that people are like, it sounds a lot like Michael Jackson music. So, it's kind of like, why would they change it otherwise? It's also kind of like this boss music that sounds like a Michael Jackson song, honestly, too. And then also in Sonic and Knuckles, if it's Sonic 3 and Knuckles, when you do it, anything that's not, like anything that has, like 2 different soundtracks to it. For instance, Sonic 3 had its own mini-boss music, whereas Sonic and Knuckles had a different mini-boss music, although there was this one level in Sonic 3 that had the same mini-boss music. It always got overridden with whatever Sonic and Knuckles was. So it kind of really seemed like they wanted kind of move away from the Sonic 3 soundtrack for whatever reason. Which, honestly, I kind of like the Sonic and Knuckles soundtrack a little bit better than Sonic 3. Like, the theme song for Sonic 3, in my opinion, is not as good as Sonic and Knuckles. It can get a little bit annoying. Biggest thing that Sonic 3 has over Sonic and Knuckles in terms of original soundtrack is the ending credits. It's much better than it is in Sonic and Knuckles. But all the other stuff they kind of replaced, I'm like, I can see it. I'm fine with them replacing it. Sonic 3 holds a special place for me because when I was a kid, we didn't have any video games at first, and I remember we used to go to this person's house who I think they were a friend of my parents from church, but they had kids who had a Nintendo 64, and I thought it was like the coolest thing ever because I was like 4 or whatever, and I always wanted to play Super Mario 64 and Mario Kart 64 because that's what they had. But they really wouldn't let me play it, and my parents wouldn't give us a video game console. We always had like this little cheap little video game systems where it was like a kind of like Game & Watch, except not Game & Watch. It was like those things where it's very clearly like pre-made pictures on a kind of like calculator looking screen, and then like you would kind of light up like little pictures, and then that's how you play the game. So we had those. But when I was in 2nd grade, my dad went out and he got a Sega Genesis with a few different games on it. One of them was Sonic 3. And yeah, at that point, because this is like 2000, Sega Genesis was already like gone. Like at that point, they were already on the Dreamcast. For some reason that year, Sega released another version of the Sega Genesis. It's like the 3rd one, which is actually the only one I knew about for a long time. Which is a lot smaller. It couldn't do things like use the Sega CD or the Sega 32X, which honestly wasn't that big of a deal. So yeah, that's what we had. So my first video game was Sonic 3 because the other games we had were kind of like Paperboy and whatnot. They didn't seem that interesting. Sonic 3 seemed way more interesting. And I was like, oh boy. And then a bunch of years later, because actually after that we got Sonic 2. And then after that we got Sonic 1, which didn't work. And I was like, oh man, I'm never going to be able to play Sonic 1. Little did I know that Sega was going to port Sonic 1 to literally everything. In fact, it's even included with Sonic Generations. But I found out a bunch of years later, when I got the Sonic Mega Collection on the Xbox, was oh, look at that. They made a sequel to Sonic 3. And I found out even later that you could connect the two and play with one big game. So I thought it was like amazing, even though I'm a lot better at Sonic 3 than Sonic and Knuckles because of that. And honestly, I like Sonic 3 way better than Sonic and Knuckles. Although I do like some of the stages in Sonic and Knuckles, like Flying Battery Zone. It's awesome. But Mushroom Hill Zone, well, I think the level's okay. I don't really like the music. In fact, actually, I don't really like the music for quite a few of the tracks in Sonic and Knuckles over Sonic 3. But that's just me. So, I did talk a little bit about Sonic and Knuckles already, but I'll talk a little bit more about it. So Sonic and Knuckles was the conclusion to the Sonic 3 and basically was like the conclusion to the Sega Genesis Sonic games as a whole. There are some Sonic games that came afterwards on the Sega Genesis, but they kind of did like their own things. Everything before this was kind of like well, apart from Sonic CD, was a kind of a sequel or like kind of all tied together. For instance, Sonic 1, it was basically like Eggman takes all the animals. Sonic's gotta save him. And then there's like Sonic 2. Eggman's back. And now he's making the Death Egg. And then they're like, alright, let's stop the Death Egg. And then Sonic 3 was the Death Egg fell down. And now Sonic needs to go and find it on this floating island. And then Sonic and Knuckles is basically the Death Egg fell down again. And then you need to stop it again. So. Well, on the end of Sonic and Knuckles, they finally got the Death Egg up in the air without it falling down again, and then Sonic took it down that way. So, that's over now. So at this point, Sega has perfected the Sonic formula, in my opinion. And at this point, whenever Sega perfects something in Sonic, this is where they decide to say, hey, we perfected this game concept. Let's get rid of it. So, they decided to get rid of what made Sonic work, and then we go into this other game that I haven't played yet, called Knuckles Chaotix. This one's interesting in the fact that A, it doesn't have Sonic in it. B, it's on the Sega 32X, which is a really interesting peripheral in and of itself. And 3, it's just a weird game. Like I haven't played it, I've seen it. It's just a weird game. It's a 32-bit game, more or less, where you play as Knuckles and like people from Team Chaotix, and you kind of connected together, and it's just kind of weird. But the only reason why I'm kind of including it on here is because it was on the 32X. So that's all I'm going to really talk about. It came out in 1995, a year after Sonic and Knuckles and Sonic 3. So I'm going to move on from that one. Okay, after Knuckles Chaotix, we get into Sonic 3D Blast, a game I have played. There are two versions of Sonic 3D Blast. The first one is on the Sega Genesis. The second one's on the Sega Saturn. For the most part, they're exactly the same, except the music's different and the special stages are different. Special stages in Sonic 3D Blast on Genesis are super easy, and they look more interesting on the Saturn, even though they probably are harder. Soundtrack on the Sega Genesis is way better, though. But it's an interesting game. It's a little weird. It's not bad. It's just different, and I don't think it did too well. But, it was okay. However, Sonic 3D Blast is basically like the only like true-ish Sonic experience you could get on the Sega Saturn, because the only other games on the Sega Saturn was Sonic R and Sonic Jam, which were both released in 1997. Sonic R came about as a racing game. It's not a very good racing game. Like, I don't really like it too much. It's just And in Sonic Jam, it's just a compilation of Sonics 1, 2, and 3. And with a 3D overworld that was like a scrap level from a scrap Sonic game for the Sega Saturn. So Sega Saturn came out in 1994 and 1995 in North America. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Sega Saturn right now. And it didn't last real long because the Dreamcast came out in like 1998 or 1999 in the U.S. So Saturn only stayed around for 4 years. Part of the reason why is it kind of failed in the U.S. anyway. It did better in Japan. It failed in the US mostly because Sega in like March of '95 said the Sega Saturn is going to come out in September, and everybody's like, "Oh, okay." And then in May, Sega's like, "Hey guys, we got an announcement. We're gonna release it earlier." And then people were like, "Well, when are you gonna release it?" And they're like, right now." And everybody got mad because nobody was expecting it. It pretty much dropped all developer support. I know KB Toys was said, "Now we're not going to support Sega. We're not going to stock it after a stunt like that." So it kind of killed a lot of support for the Saturn in the U.S. by doing that. And the only reason why they did that was because Atari released their new console, and they kind of wanted to be like one of the first ones out, which is one of those. Which kind of goes back to that philosophy that I said Sega had at the time, and actually for a lot of their video game history, which was kind of gotta go fast. They tried to get their systems out before everybody else. You can see that with the Sega Genesis. It was like one of the first 16-bit consoles. The Sega Saturn was one of the first 32-bit consoles. I mean, PlayStation came out about the same time, so it didn't have as much of a heads up as the other ones, but it still beat out the Nintendo 64 by about a year, which was a 64-bit console. So it's kind of like maybe Sega should have kind of upped it up a little bit more. But so after the Saturn, then Sega releases the Sega Dreamcast in 1998 in Japan and 1999 in the US. Sega Dreamcast is interesting in the fact that they also went fast there. It was a 128-bit console, so it was on par with the GameCube, the PS2, and the Xbox in terms of bitage or whatever it is. So it's usually lumped in with that generation, despite the fact that actually it pretty much came and went before any of those systems came out. Because the support for this game for the system ended around early 2002, and official support ended a little bit earlier before that, probably by the end of 2001, which is when all these systems were coming out. So it feels kind of weird because it's actually competing more with the N64 PlayStation and N64 and PlayStation, but it's usually lumped in with the stuff that came later after it because that's what its hardware matched more. And Dreamcast is just an interesting system on its own because honestly, it was ahead of its time. It did have a lot of issues with it. I never played the Dreamcast, but I kind of wish I did. It had a lot of interesting features about it. I really liked the VMU part of it. And they didn't bring that back and nobody else tried that until like the Wii U, and that flopped. And I'm just kind of like, man, I really like the concept of like a second screen, and unfortunately, like it keeps flopping. I don't know why. So I'm hoping eventually somebody can kind of get that concept to work better. But anyway, next up we have Sonic Adventure. Sonic Adventure came out 1998 or 1999, depending where you live, and it was Sonic's first like truly 3D adventure that wasn't like Sonic R. And it's it's okay. I like the game. It's a fun game to play. I'm not gonna lie to it has issues. The voice acting's terrible. And I never played the Dreamcast version. I played the GameCube version. I have seen the Dreamcast version. In some parts it looks better. Some parts it looks worse. I think it's less glitchy than the GameCube version though. Yeah, it's kind of a glitchy mess. Voice acting's terrible. Some of the gameplay is kind of like it's unrefined. But they did they did get it right in my opinion in Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic Adventure 2 was released in 2001. It was on Dreamcast, and then later they ported it over to the GameCube. Which, interesting fact, they ported Sonic Adventure 2 over to the GameCube before they ported Sonic Adventure 1 over to the GameCube. Sonic Adventure 2, in my opinion, was better. It had a better child system, better voice acting, better animation, better levels because they were actually tailored to the character versus in Sonic Adventure where each level kind of could try to had to support a variety of characters. And while they did have like individual sections, and in some cases like pretty much the whole level was dedicated to like one character, it still felt kind of clunky. I thought Sonic Adventure 2 was more refined. They finally got it going in a way that could work. And then Sega decided to kind of ruin it again at this point because, Sega had it down and they thought, hey, let's ruin it by making Sonic Heroes. The Sonic Heroes is not exactly a bad game. One of the reasons that it was kind of poor with the fact they had to make a new engine for it because at this point the Sega Dreamcast went away, so they couldn't use the Dreamcast, and they didn't want to just keep making stuff for the Nintendo GameCube, so they had to make a new system that could go on the GameCube, the Xbox, and the PlayStation 2, and so they ended up with this engine that was it made everything kind of slippery. It didn't look as good, and depending on what system you played on, like the PS2, it looked horrible. And like I said, it's not a bad game, but it's okay. Though I will say, Sonic Heroes does have a rather underrated soundtrack, in my opinion. Like it's not like the soundtrack's not like amazing, but like it has some pretty good songs in there as well. People tend not to talk about that soundtrack. I don't see that soundtrack talked about as much, but it's pretty good. After that, in 2005, they released another game called Shadow the Hedgehog. Now, this one you play as Shadow, you don't play as Sonic. I mean, Sonic's in the game, but you don't play as Sonic. It's an interesting game. It's definitely kind of like, it's definitely considered super edgy. It's like a choose your own adventure that's really interesting, and then like, it kind of also doesn't make any sense, especially if you do the different paths. They kind of conflict with each other. Like in terms of what story elements happen. So I don't mean like you hear Shadow's evil and then like hear like something else like Shadow's good, like they conflict like that. I don't mind that. It's more kind of like the reasoning for. It's been a while since I played this game because unfortunately my copy of Shadow the Hedgehog broke somehow. But it's like Shadow goes one way, and like somebody's reason for, I think like Black Doom's reason for something is one thing, and if Shadow goes like the good route, like his reason for something else, his reason for, or his like reason for doing something is like a different reason and doesn't make any sense. And then you do the final story, which I don't even know what the final story is even supposed to be. Like it's like a mix of all of them. Like where is the where is that supposed to go in there? Like I think it's supposed to be like the good route in a sense, but I don't know. It's not that great of a game. I actually like the music in there. I think the music for that game is a little underrated as well. I think it has some pretty decent music in there as well. Alright, now we get to the fun game. Sonic the Hedgehog. However, this one is the 2006 version, also known as Sonic 06. Now this game I got it because one, I heard it was really bad. I want to know how bad it was, and B, because I was like a kid at the time, I saw it said like platinum hits, and I'm like, that means it sold well, so it can't be all that bad, and it was pretty bad. So, I mean, there's a lot about this game that's already been said that I don't think I can really contribute to. I will say a few things about it though. Number one, the soundtrack in this game really good. I really like it. It's like the best thing about this game. Second thing about this game is honestly at first I didn't like Eggman's design because he was a lot more humanoid. After a while, I kind of grew on it. Like, I prefer his other design, but, honestly, as far as Eggman's design goes in this game, it's not that bad. The third thing about this game, though, is the loading times are atrocious. Mostly because whenever they load something in, specifically on the cutscenes, they load the entire level and, like, the one person for, like, the 2-line cutscene, and then they load the entire level again with what you actually want to do in it, and so that just makes it really bad. And it is a little funny in a way, but it's also kind of like when you're playing it, it's like, oh man, I gotta keep watching like 4 minutes of load times whenever I do a mission. And then the last thing that I want to mention about this game is the potential it had. So you can tell in the game here that there was potential for this game to be good. Like, there is a good game in there if you look past all the garbage for it. There's a lot of good in there. For instance, Silver the Hedgehog, I think, doesn't play real well. He's pretty slow, but you can definitely tell that, they sped him up. They did a few other things to him. He could play pretty well. I think his voice is kind of annoying, though. Granted, I think everybody's voice acting in that game is garbage, but there's definitely potential there. Like, honestly, a bunch of these games, if you look into the development detail, were always kind of rushed. Which, honestly, as far as game development goes, isn't exactly uncommon, but Sega seems to make it into an art form. Sonic the Hedgehog was super rushed because the Xbox 360 and the PS3 came out around that time. And that was like the first or second holiday season for those systems. And so Sega wanted to stick their game out on there. And however, the people making the game, making Sonic the Hedgehog, said, no, it's not ready yet. And Sega's like, release it anyway. And so that's why I think it's kind of like a big mess. Interesting fact that I heard, I didn't play the demo, but I heard the demo actually has a few more animations to it. And like it plays a little bit better than the actual game. Probably because it was probably like a later demo. Like it was like a later version of it. But they rolled it back because it was probably less stable. Which I found interesting. So you can definitely tell, like, if they were given like maybe like a year or two more time, the game would probably be better. But anyway, so after this, Sega decided, after Sonic 06, Sega decided, you know what, maybe we should kind of change up what we're doing again. Which, kinda, I agreed with, but at the same time, eh. So, in 2008, it released Sonic Unleashed with the Werehog. Which, Werehog was okay. The levels definitely took a while. Like, for instance, the last level of that game was Eggman Land, which was like, oh, finally Eggman makes Eggman Land. After, like, talking about it for years. Man, first time I did it, it took me over 70 minutes because of how long the Werehog sections took. I can still say that's pretty bad on my part, but point is that it still takes a while. Because I remember looking at this hot dog mission you get for like speed running in. The first time was like an hour, so you can already tell like that level takes a while. But I actually like Sonic Unleashed. I like the music in it. The frame rate was horrible though. I played the 360 version. I didn't play the Wii version. So the frame rate was horrible in Adabad. And but I really liked the daytime stages. I thought they were a lot of fun. And then in 2010, Sonic Colors came out, which I played. I didn't actually like. People like Sonic Colors because it was basically the daytime stages of Sonic Unleashed, but without the Werehog stages. Personally, I didn't really like Sonic Colors that much. I'm like, it was okay. Like, I liked it. I thought the writing was better than Sonic Unleashed, but the gameplay I thought was like a downgrade to Sonic Unleashed in my opinion. Also in 2010 is when Sega decided to release Sonic 4 Episode 1. Which, there's different versions of it. I played the one on the Android, which has slightly different level concepts. And honestly, it's garbage. I like the concept of them reusing the enemies though, by saying like Eggman ran out of money. Which I found hilarious. But the game itself, garbage. There's lots of videos on it, but basically, like, biggest thing about Sonic was this physics-based gameplay, and Sonic 4 just kind of basically farted all over physics and kind of did whatever. Like, you just kind of walk up walls like they were nothing. It's just like, eh. It was made by Dimps, but I'm honestly not surprised that it was kind of bad because I haven't talked about any of the. I said I wasn't going to talk about any of the like handheld games for the most part, but I will talk about Sonic Advance 3 because I have played Sonic Advance 3. It was also made by Dimps, and in that game, Dimps really liked to make levels where you would go down a long section of like you go down this long like straight section, and then you would end with a platforming section and a block to get up to said platforming section that will crush you if you ran into the wall and you didn't immediately move afterwards. And it was just, and they did that multiple times throughout the game, and so you just end up dying a bunch. And I'm just like, man, why do you do this? So I mean, it got a little bit better with Sonic Rush, but it was still like, it wasn't that great in my opinion. So Sonic Generations came out the next year. My opinion, pretty good. But my biggest complaint with Sonic Generations was two things. Actually, number one, I still have no clue how that final boss works. Like I just go through it and I just beat it. Like I don't know how to do it. I just randomly beat it at some point. Like I don't know. I really don't know how to beat it. Like sometimes like I think I'm approaching it and then like it just kind of leaves on me, and sometimes I can go up to it. I don't get it. I think it's like the only level on there I haven't gotten an S rank on yet, on hard mode, because I still don't know how to beat it. It just kind of happens. And the second part is classic Sonic's controls just feel a little awkward. Like, yeah, he moves, but he doesn't feel as fluid as his 2D games are. And I was kind of hoping they could get that right, but it didn't quite get it right. I don't know why, but those are my two biggest complaints of Sonic Generations. 2012, Sonic 4 Episode 2 came out, which again, I only played the Android version, but that was much better. Like, the controls much better. They didn't just reuse the entire bosses, which, I mean, I said the enemies were fine in Sonic 4, but the bosses got kind of eh. The music was better, and overall I thought it was a better game. People thought they were going to make an episode 3, and maybe they were going to make an episode 3, but they ended up not making episode 3. And so, it just kind of fizzled out there. So, but it was better. I'll give it that much. Like, the physics were better. It wasn't, like, amazing, but they were better. Alright, in 2013, Sega made Sonic Lost World for the Nintendo Wii U. Now, I have not played this because I didn't own a Wii U. It is on the PC, but I have played a little bit once at a GameStop. I thought the game kind of controls kind of awkward, and I seen a playthrough of it, and I wasn't too interested in it. But it wasn't bad from what I saw. It just wasn't, like, amazing. It's actually a bit like Mario Galaxy in a sense. I thought the writing was okay. About on par with Sonic Colors, in my opinion. And now we get to the other fun part. Sonic Boom Rise of the Lyric, also known as Sonic Boom, as people like to call it. I was in 2014. Sonic Boom has a few distinctions. The first one being that it is a game that's a spin-off, so like they're not exactly the same Sonic characters. It was kind of like his new sub series that had same characters in terms of various aspects about them, but they were also very different. Second part was, it was noted to be a game arguably worse than Sonic 06, which is pretty hard to do. And it was in my opinion, Sonic Boom, even though I never played it because I didn't own a Wii U, Sonic Boom, in my opinion, is worse than Sonic 06, because while Sonic 06 is worse in terms of glitches and whatnot, like Sonic 06 is some ways borderline unplayable. Sonic Boom is just, it's got glitches, but they're not like frustrating glitches, they're just kind of like boring glitches. The music isn't good. The character designs are fine, honestly, though. Knuckles I'm still a little like about, but honestly, I really like Amy's design. And Tails' design is Tails' design is basically Tails with wearing goggles. Sonic's is okay. Like Sonic and Knuckles are kind of like eh. Tails is okay. Like Tails is fine. I like Amy's only because I find her dress a little weird in the normal ones. Honestly, I think her dress is a little too high in the original ones. Like in Sonic Adventure, like half the times you're getting, I feel like I'm getting flashed by Amy, and I don't like it. But so yeah, Sonic Boom isn't very good. And in fact, actually, there's a Forbes article that I found saying that Sonic Boom is the worst selling Sonic game of all time, which is saying something. So at this point, Sega really couldn't use Sonic as a cash cow anymore. Sonic Boom, and Sonic Boom Shadow Crystal, which I also haven't played, but they were kind of paired. They were released around the same time, and they're kind of supposed to kind of go with each other. At that point, Sega kind of realized can't really just keep farting out Sonic games and having people buy them because it's just not happening anymore. And I feel like at this point, this is where like kind of like all the goodwill that Sonic fans had with Sega just kind of left. Like there's still rabid Sonic fans that were like, I'll buy anything, but a lot of Sonic fans, like at this point, me, was kind of like, maybe I'll wait before I buy a game. At this point, there really weren't too many good games between Sonic Heroes and Sonic Boom. There was like maybe like 2 or 3, but everything else was kind of garbage. And the only good thing that I could say at that point that was Sonic related at the time was Sonic Boom, the TV show, which was actually pretty good because the writing was good. I thought the characters were good. I thought the episodes were good. Like it wasn't like amazing, and it was more geared towards little kids. But it was definitely, you can definitely tell the show really liked Sonic fans, and like make little jokes to them. But it wasn't in a way where if you weren't a Sonic fan at that point, like it would detract from it. But at the same time, if you were a Sonic fan, you could enjoy it. So I thought it was real nice. And actually, this show was the first time Sonic has ever uttered the words "gotta go fast." And there's one scene where Sonic gets pulled over for speeding, and Sonic said, "I don't think they're gonna accept my excuse of chronic gotta go fast," which I thought was funny. But yeah, so Sega at this point, I read a Game Informer article at this time. It was before the next Sonic Boom game came out, which was Sonic Boom Fire and Ice. Basically, at this point, Sega said, we're going to delay this one because we wanted to make it good because it wasn't good enough. And Sega doesn't usually delay games. Sega usually is like, okay, releasing it at this day, at this time, and that's what we're going to do. And if Sega ever changes it, it's usually because Sega wants to release it earlier. Usually don't want to go backwards. I think part of it might be Sega might be strapped for cash or something. I don't know. But so Sega decided to delay it, and we're kind of basically saying that Sonic really was, in that article, they're basically saying what I said earlier, which was Sonic doesn't really print money for him anymore. So they decided to release Fire and Ice a little bit later, 2016, and I didn't play this one either, but I heard it wasn't an amazing Sonic game, but I heard it was actually decent. Like, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't, like, great. It was decent. So, I thought at this point, Sega might be turning it around. Because in the game after this, or at least one of the major games after this, was Sonic Mania. And Sonic Mania was a game I really liked. Had some issues. Basically, it only had 4 unique levels, and it remade the other 8 levels. However, those remakes of the other levels, in my opinion, were pretty good. They didn't quite feel the same. For instance, they actually made the Sonic CD levels good, and it was a fun game. They got the physics down. It had a great gameplay. I thought it was amazing. Really fun. So I thought at this point, Sega's learned from their mistakes. Maybe they should focus on making the games good. And then they released Sonic Forces. Now, I didn't play this game either. I didn't have a whole lot of money at the time, and it seemed like it was gonna flop, and it did. But it had Sonic Forces had a good concept going, which was to create your own character, because one of the things the Sonic fans really like doing was creating their own characters, and so Sega found like, hey, you can create your own character, hang out with Sonic, save Sonic, and everyone's like, oh boy, but from what I've seen, there aren't too many variations of levels. Some of the levels are really short. Gameplay looks super easy. And it's just like, So that's all the Sonic games I want to talk about. I don't really think there's anything after this. Actually, there's like a few after this. I know there's like Mario and Sonic games at the Olympics, but I didn't play any of those. So, I want to kind of talk about overall what I feel about Sonic. So a big thing, like I said, is that Sega likes to change the formula up whenever they whenever they kind of get like the formula down. So for instance, after Sonic 3 and Knuckles, they got the formula down and they decided to not touch it again until like Sonic Mania in 2017. They got Sonic Adventure 2 down, in my opinion, and they really didn't do a whole lot with it. And after that, like they kind of changed up all the controls. It didn't feel as good. Like Sonic Heroes felt really loose. Shadow the Hedgehog, I can't forget because it's been a while, but I'm pretty sure it went off of Sonic Heroes. So Shadow the Hedgehog also probably felt really loose. And same thing with Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. Sonic Unleashed, though, they actually made a change to it. They actually got a whole new engine for it. Sonic didn't feel loose anymore. He felt actually kind of stiff. But they added the boost mechanic, which was in Sonic Rush. And they got it good going on Sonic Rush, Sonic Colors, and then they got it pretty good going on Sonic Generations. That's really the point where I feel like they kind of perfected it. And then they're like, you know what? Let's do something different and never touch it again. And that's felt like, all right. Well, I don't know why, but so I don't know. Sega. One thing I really liked about Sega was the fact they were willing to take risks on things. Like they had so many ridiculous stuff in the '90s, and that's one thing I really liked about Sega. It didn't work out half the time, but they can at least say they tried. Unlike Nintendo, which seems to be a lot more conservative. But sometimes I kind of feel like maybe you need to take a page out of Nintendo and kind of get a little bit more conservative about what changes you make to Sonic. The other thing that they tend to do is that, like Sonic, you're always trying to go fast. And you're always trying to get games out as fast as possible. Which is fine if the games are good, but they're not good because you tend to rush them. And maybe if you slowed it down, at least maybe like a Sonic game, like maybe every other year or maybe every 3 years or something, maybe the games would be better and people will buy them more. So it's just kind of like, I don't know, me as a Sonic fan, I don't know, I'm not like, oh man, I really wish there was a Sonic game out this year I could play. Now I'm fine with waiting a little bit. So, in summary of this, Sega needs to just slow it down and kind of try to keep stuff that works and kind of slowly adding concepts that are different while still keeping a lot of concepts that still work. The other thing Sega needs to kind of do is they kind of see the wrong lessons from certain games. For instance, Sonic 06. Sonic 06, Sega kind of took that to mean that there's too many characters in it. You need to reel it back. You can't really have much of a story because the story didn't pan out well. And it's like true. There were too many characters, and the story was incomprehensible for the most part. But that wasn't the lesson they really needed to take away from that, because people like the characters. They just don't like a bajillion characters, especially when you introduce a whole bunch of new ones. And they don't. And in my opinion, I like the stories in Sonic. I just don't like this incomprehensible mess that ended up with some lady kissing Sonic and there being like 2 blue Chaos Emeralds running around or something. It just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So they kind of took the wrong lesson from it, and then after that it was basically just Sonic, and then possibly Tails throughout most of the other games. Although in Sonic Unleashed they had Amy for some reason. So they've been slowly bringing back other characters. So I'm kind of hoping they don't take the wrong lesson from Sonic Forces. Because Sonic Forces, when they added in a whole bunch more characters, and they added in they try to make a more competent story. And since that game didn't do well, I'm hoping they're not going to take the lesson from it again that more characters plus more story equals bad Sonic. Because that's not what the issue was. So the last thing I want to talk about is the opinion. There's been an opinion going around for a while. It got more traction in recent years of Sonic games were never good. I've seen it from a few things. A big one that I feel like kind of pushed it into the mainstream was Aaron Hansen of Game Grumps. I don't think he's the first one to have that opinion, but I think he was like the first one to kind of say, for like major internet personality to say, I don't like Sonic, and then everyone's like, hey, you don't like Sonic, I don't like Sonic, so I'm gonna be more vocal about it. And so it's been kind of this movement to just kind of say Sonic was never good. One of the reasons for this is that Sonic's very glitchy in some games. So one of the reasons that point to various glitches in different games, the voice acting is not good. One of the things that I know, at least Aaron Hansen talks about, which honestly I don't actually know if he actually hates Sonic or not, because he always says that he likes Sonic, but he also says he hates Sonic, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But people who tend to not think Sonic was never good tend to have this mentality of since Sonic's mantra is gotta go fast, that means you hold right to win. And if you can't hold right to win, therefore it's a bad Sonic game. But what they seem to fail to realize, in my opinion, is that Sonic games, while they are about going fast and keeping up momentum, it's more of like you don't really go all that fast the first time through because you don't know what the level's like. And I'm talking more so about 2D Sonic games. 3D Sonic games you can see what's coming up. But 2D Sonic games you can't. And so it's more about seeing the level the first time and then going back later, like the second, third, fourth, or fifth time, knowing the level well enough that you can kind of know what's coming up and you can try to keep that momentum going through it. And that, in my opinion, is where Sonic's gotta go fast mentality really kicks in. And that's really the experience that we're saying Sonic's fast. I feel like that's where it comes from. You can't really get that in a game like Mario, because while Mario, like when you do know the level, you can't speed it up. It's not, it doesn't, low level Mario gameplay and intermediate level Mario gameplay, in my opinion, aren't too different, because you can go pretty much top speed with Mario for the most part anyway at low level gameplay, and then when you get to like when you kind of know the level, you can still speed it up for the most part. But Sonic, in my opinion, like the difference between low level Sonic gameplay and intermediate level Sonic gameplay are much bigger. Now when you get to like the speed running level though, you can do either or. They're both pretty interesting to look at. I think Sonic's a little bit more interesting to look at in my opinion than Mario. Because if you look at, especially if you look at like Sonic 1 gameplay or like Sonic 2 gameplay in terms of speed running, man, some of those levels they're just flying off all over the place, and I don't even know. Like, there's one I saw where Sonic was flying off the stage or was flying off into the air, and he lands on something, and he lands on something else, and like you don't see anything until he hits the ground, but he lands on something, so he goes flying off, and he keeps going. And he's gonna land on the ground again, and then he hits something else and keeps flying. And I'm just like, man, that's amazing. You don't get that in Mario. So, I really feel like when people talk about Sonic not being very good, I think they basically want to like start the game and just run real fast, and then that's it. But that game would be boring. It'd be like no enemies. Like it just wouldn't be all that fun. It'd be no kind of gameplay variation. So, in my opinion, I feel like people who tend to argue that Sonic was never good are kind of missing that point. Now, if you don't like that gameplay, that's fine. I'm not saying like if you don't like it, you're wrong for not liking it. But I think when people are saying that Sonic games really aren't about going fast, I think they seem to miss that aspect of it. So you might be saying, well, you're just saying that because, you know, you're biased to Sonic. You grew up with Sonic. And yeah, I did grow up with Sonic. Though I can fully admit that Sonic Adventure has a lot of issues. For instance, when you run along the walls, it's really honestly a coin toss. Whether or not I'm actually going to stay along the wall or I'm going to fall off and land onto the lower path. But even I can admit though, even with all its flaws, it's still a fun game to play. So we reached the end of the video. That's my opinion about Sonic games. It's also my opinion about where Sonic games should head, and it's also my opinion about how I feel about the criticism that Sonic games were never good. Do you agree with me or not? Just let me know in the comments down below. Hope you have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.